Hi. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Happy
We're doing something a
Thursday.
little different today. It's called No Music.
It's called
Hi.
No Music.
So we are bringing you the entertainment here at the beginning. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are Sister Straight Talk. I'm Emily.
I'm Molly.
And we're
Read. I'm Molly.
and we are not doing any opening music like we normally do. So those of you that normally watch us, it doesn't sound great. So we're kind of upgrading our sound system a little bit. So be prepared for hopefully better sound quality
We're
coming in the
leveling.
next couple weeks.
Sorry, I'm all emotional about it. We're leveling up our sound experience for you.
Yes.
Like we level ourselves up in front of you, live and raw every week.
Yes. Live and raw and real. This is what we're doing because we keep it real. We tell it to you straight, and we share with you our process straight. And we can't be anything but straight with you guys
We
all
really
the
can't. I mean, we try and try. Let's hide. Be
time.
truthful. Let's do all the things. Nope. We just got to be real. Just got to
Yeah.
be real.
So happy Thursday, though. We have I'm excited about what we're talking about today. I assume you're excited about this topic too, Molly.
I am. I don't think I would use the word excited if we have to be really honest with
So let's
you.
be really honest.
Yeah, I would not say that I'm excited. I think excited is one of those catchphrases that when people go live, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to
So excited.
today. So excited to share this truth with you today."
Are we
I
making fun of people right
love
now?
talking about my
Are
fears
we?
and
Wait a
insecurities.
minute. Are we making fun of people right now? Because there's this person I follow on TikTok who makes fun of, I can't blanking on her name right now. You guys, I'm sure probably know who I'm talking about. She has an entire success story of TikTok fame because she makes fun of influencers. And I feel like that's a little bit of what you just did right now. Guys, I'm so excited about what we're talking about today.
We have just been up all night like Christmas Eve because we're so excited about it.
We're so excited. Also,
Hey, I
let
just
us
want to
know.
share with y'all what I'm drinking over here. I put this in my mug today because I just got done working out and I need to refuel for a quick minute. And I'm also drinking this because I'm super tired right now because it's about balance. It's about balance, people. Nutrition, clean nutrition with some toxins and chemicals and sugars and things that I would never support or tell you to drink. I am doing that today because it's about balance.
It's about balance.
Yeah.
I don't have I used my mug earlier today. I promise you I did. And then I forgot to bring it up right now.
Believe her? Do you believe her? Because it's like the 13th week in a row.
I used it this morning for my coffee. I did.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, if you're here and you're watching this craziness, let us know. We always love to know that you're here. We always love to know. So say hi, drop a comment, drop a gift, drop a whatever. Let us know. But today we are going to talk about fear and self-sabotage. And we're going to ask the question, does this sound like you? Does this sound like something that you are doing currently, that you have done, or maybe you know people that do this? And, speaking of authenticity and all of that, Molly and I'll speak for myself. I'll speak for you too, Molly, because I know your story.
To do that.
We have been through this fear and self-sabotage cycle, and we get it, which is why it resonated so much with me. And to be perfectly transparent, I didn't come up with any of the concepts we're going to share today on my own. I got zero of this on my own. I follow an amazing leader by the name of John Maxwell, and I just soak up and absorb his books and his podcasts and all of the knowledge I can. And so this is all John Maxwell's training that we are bringing to you for Sister Straight Talk today. So just disclaimer there, we are not the inventors of these ideas, but we want to be the communicators and the connectors of these ideas to you, our amazing audience. So let's start by talking about fear. And then we will make our way to self-sabotage and breaking the self-sabotage cycle. So let's start talking about fear. And Who doesn't want to talk about fear? Am I right? Here's
Yeah, it's a fun topic to delve into. And I did want to interrupt your flow for a quick minute. That's it. Just a quick minute.
Please do.
I wanted to ask our lovely friends, as you're joining, as you're hopping on, I see your numbers. I see my numbers rising.
Hey, Jasmine, thanks for saying hi.
I see you hopping on, and I need to hear from you. Our question of the day is, do you prefer a live video? Or are you the kind of person who listens to podcasts and you have the Apple Podcast app or Spotify or whatever, and you really kind of listen and consume ideas and thoughts from people that you love more in a podcast format versus a going live on YouTube? Or I know my son will sit and watch YouTube live videos all day long if it's something about science or building or inventing, but you would never catch me watching something live. I just like to go live in front of everybody.
So people want to know, are you more of a consumer of lives like this? I mean, if you're on right now, obviously it's something you do consume, but is your preferred consumption method this format, or is your preferred like seeing our faces, or is your preferred consumption method listening to a podcast maybe while you're taking your dog for a walk or doing dishes or something? Or do you like to watch something while you're doing dishes, or I don't know why I keep saying doing dishes, but
I don't know, but you are pretty obsessive about
I am pretty obsessive about doing dishes. Maybe that's why. I just did dishes this morning. Maybe that's why. It's really right there for me. Live is fun, but it doesn't always work with schedules. Yeah, totally. It doesn't work with schedules. So are you the person, Jasmine, that would go and watch the replay later? Or are you like, no, if I missed it and I missed it live, I'm not going to go back and watch it later when I have time. I just won't. That's just not me. You want to see our faces? Okay, cool. Keep those comments coming. Question of the day. Are you more of a podcast person? Or are you more of a live person? Do you like to have it in the background while you do other things? Do you want to see our faces while you do other things? Let us know. And you do watch replays. Okay. And then if you miss a live, are you somebody that would go back and watch the replay? Or are you someone who you missed it and out of sight, out of mind?
Moving on to better things. That is our really sincere question of the day, because we are always growing and we are always expanding and we are always going to the next thing. I've just lost my ability to talk, but I think you follow my complex sentence over here that we really just want to serve you for where you're at and what actually interests you. And so far our lives have been no problem, super whatever. We love it. We love you. You guys are great. You tune in. But if there's a way that we can make it better for you and more easily accessible, because like we've said monotonously, if she and I wanted to hang out and talk to each other, we would just pick up the phone.
Who's the she and I in that sentence?
We're doing this for you. What?
You said if she and I wants to hang out.
I've lost my grammar. I've lost my ability to
Am I the she in that sentence?
You and I. Yeah, we go live because we want to have a way, whether it's a podcast platform, our YouTube platform, or here on Instagram or Facebook platform. We really just want to have a way to talk to you and see you and interact with you. So yeah, that's our question of the day. Are you a podcast person or are you a lives kind of person? Emily, take it away.
Take it away. All right. So today we're talking about fear and self-sabotage, and we are going to break it down for you. Again, as I said at the very beginning, if you're just joining, these ideas are not our ideas. We stole them directly from one of our favorite leaders, John Maxwell, and we are the connector, the communicator, if you will, of sharing these ideas with you guys because they're so powerful. So let's start by talking about fear. And here's something that I want you to understand about fear. Fear breeds more fear. It is a continuous cycle. Once you step into it, you're not going to stop worrying about what might potentially happen. So I want to share 3 principles with you about fear and how powerful it is in a negative way, right? So the first thing we know is that fear breeds more fear. But let's break it down a little bit further. Fear has the ability to exaggerate itself. Now, I want you to think about something that you are afraid of, or maybe that you've been afraid of in the past. And I want you to think back in your brain about when you live in that fear and when you choose to let the emotion of fear dictate your response to whatever it is that's happening in your life. By focusing on that fear, does anything get better? And I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is no, because when we focus on fear, it exaggerates itself and becomes more and more and more rather than reducing anxiety or reducing stress. Here's the other thing. If we choose fear, we're also choosing inaction, because fear causes inaction. And I think that this is powerful when we think about doing things that you're afraid of. What happens? You get paralyzed. You get paralyzed by the idea. You get paralyzed by the concept. And then you start focusing on the fact that you're not doing it. And then you become more afraid of the thing that you're not doing. And then you become afraid of that. And then you get more anxious. And the only way you can break that cycle is by not choosing fear. The other thing that happens is fear causes distraction. So it keeps us from moving forward to our goal because we're distracted by honestly worrying about what hasn't even happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those are 3 characteristics of fear. And I want you guys to let me know if any of this resonates with you.
Yeah, I'm watching the heart button, the smashing the heart button up there as you guys really resonate with what she's saying. I just jarred my screen. I kicked my desk. Sorry, guys.
I know that I have, in seasons of my life, chosen to live in fear. And I will tell you from my experience with that, the only thing that comes from choosing to be afraid and choosing to live in that emotion, because fear is an emotion, the only thing that comes from that is worry, anxiety, and stress. That's the only thing that comes from it. And you look back and you realize how much time you've wasted with all of those emotions that result from choosing fear. So now the question is, and I know you want to know, you're like, okay, yes, that's me. I'm raising my hand. That's me. I'm self-identifying as someone that has chosen fear more times than I'd care to admit. And so now the question is, how do we fix our fears? How do we fix this cycle? How do we change this cycle? And let me check the comments real fast. I was 1,000% scared to do what I had to do. I was paralyzed, but I did it. That's amazing. Congratulations. What perfect timing for us to be talking about this today, especially when you say that you were 1,000% scared to do it, but you had to do it.
Well, if you're comfortable, Facebook user, if you could share with us what the result was.
We say Facebook user because we're streaming to multiple platforms, and if you don't give StreamYard permission to show your name, we don't know who you are.
Yeah. You are a Facebook user.
You are a Facebook user.
Let us know what the result was. I'm curious.
Yes, let us know. That's great.
When you chose to do it, what happened? What kind of outcome did you have?
It's a good question. Let us know if you want to. If you feel comfortable sharing, let us know. All right. So now the question is, now that we've identified that fear has the ability to exaggerate itself, fear causes inaction, fear causes distraction. Like, yeah, I get it. That's what I've been doing. Now, how do I fix it? How do we fix our fears? So the first thing that you want to do is discover the foundation of fear. And here, I'm going to share some statistics with you, because here's the facts about fear. Fear is not usually based on facts. Yeah. They're based on feelings. The majority of our fears are based on feelings. The University of Michigan, Molly, is not usually. You were not paying attention. I'm just pointing out the University of Michigan because you live in Michigan, and I thought that would be a fun.
No, I was actually pulling up our live on Facebook so I could see who was commenting.
Oh, okay. The University of Michigan did a survey on fear in relation to reality. And here are some stats that I think are going to give you all a very new perspective on the benefits of fear, or I should say the lack of benefits of fear. So here's what they found. They found that 60% of our fears are totally unwarranted. We are afraid of things that are never going to happen. They're completely, and I'm not saying figments of our imagination and like you just sit and you just create fears.
I had a dream. I had been about spiders last night. I had a very vivid dream about spiders last night, and there was a couple in my house that I could not get. They kept disappearing or going under a table just as I came by with a broom or the vacuum. And I woke up in a panic because I have a very real fear of spiders. So I thought that was a fun interjection for what you just said, Emily.
That is a fun interjection. Thank you for interjecting.
I'm paying attention to me and all the comments. She obviously cares more about you guys than me, and that's the way it should be.
I was reading the comments.
You totally were, and it's fine. I'm cool.
Okay, so Jasmine, you make a good point. Sometimes fears are well-founded, and I feel like it's a thin line between brave and stupid, and that's kind of going a little bit deeper into risk taking and all of that. So yes, that's accurate. There are valid fears, but what I want to point out is that 60% of the things that we fear are totally unwarranted, meaning they never ever happen. The other 20% of what we fear is in the past, meaning it's already happened, so we cannot control it. And as humans, what happens is we tend to worry about things that already happened and that are completely out of our control, and then worry about history repeating itself. And we're always living kind of in the past, but that's 20%, and we need to release that because it's already happened. There's no indication it'll happen again, and it is completely out of our control. Mm-hmm. The University of Michigan also found that 10% of our fears are so petty that they make no difference at all. Mm-hmm. Which is, when you really sit down and think about that, think about the things that you're worried about. And I don't want to diminish a person's emotions or their feelings, but a lot of the times, when I see this, when I see 10% of our fears are so petty, they make no difference at all. It reminds me of times in my life when I've been afraid to go somewhere because someone else was going to be there that, maybe I had a bad experience with, or I was afraid of how they would react to me because of an interaction we've had in the past. And honestly, that nothing came of it. Nothing happened because of it. You go to the place or you go to the event and nothing happens and everything's fine, and it made no difference. It makes no difference. It makes no difference. And, the entire night before, you're anxious and you're worried and you're afraid and your mind is racing. But it's honestly, we have to be, honest with ourselves. It is such a petty fear that it doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things.
I want to know what some of your fears are. Ooh. Who is brave? Because I'm about to share something with you all. A pretty raw fear that I have, and I want to hear from you. Who among you will be first to let us know what your fear is, and can you name it? Can you qualify it and say that it really does fall into that percentage that Emily's talking about, where ultimately, why am I afraid of that? What does it really matter, or is it a legitimate fear? Because there is that percentage as well.
So let me do that first. Let me wrap up the stats first before you share that. Okay, so the final stat, the final 10%, only 4 to 5% of what we worry about are real and justifiable fears. Guys, there are real and justifiable fears. There are things we should actually be fearful of, we should be afraid of. It is a human safety mechanism, honestly, that prevents us from being stupid, that prevents us from, killing ourselves, because we should be afraid of some valid things. We should have a desire for self-preservation. And so there are valid things that we should be afraid of, but that is only 4 to 5% of what we worry about and what we focus on in our fears. Only 4 to 5%. All right, go ahead, Molly.
Okay, so I want to know what one of your fears is. Have you said the quote yet, Emily?
No.
Okay, I love this quote. Mark Twain said it best. I have been through some terrible things in my life, a few of which actually happened.
Yeah.
And that is so true, because we make these stories in our heads about our realities or what would happen if we did X, Y, and Z. And I'm curious to know what some of your fears are, because when you actually write it down and you look at it on paper, essentially, and you name it, you sometimes realize for yourself how ridiculous it is. I'm not saying that that's what's going to magically get you over the hump, because as you're about to learn from me, I'm in the thick of a very all-encompassing fear. And that's why this topic is so relevant, and why we love bringing it to you, Sister Straight, because we like to share what we're actually going through and things that we have learned in the process, in the journey, so that we can all help each other be a little bit better together, a little bit better each day. And so what's one of your fears? What's something that you really feel like holds you back from doing something? It could be a big thing, could be a small thing. And what is the actual percentage of times that fear has actually happened to you, that you've actually put yourself in that situation, that bad thing that you were afraid of?
We're getting some good comments, like rejection, fear of judgment. And, Molly, you're probably getting to this, and I'm totally interrupting you and taking away your glory here. But when we fear rejection, mm-hmm. we spend so much time worrying about being rejected. And I challenge you that 9 times out of 10, you don't end up getting rejected. And the reaction and the response is way different than you expected. And so I personally, from experience, have found that falls into the 60% category. We are afraid of rejection, and that falls into the bucket of 60% of it never actually even happens. We're so afraid of it, and we spend our whole life tiptoeing around it, but the rejection never even actually happens.
Yes. And the fear of failure is an interesting one that we can all smash that heart button on right there, because I think we all are in that same boat. But that's an interesting one, because when you really wrap your head around it, the thing that you're fearing failing at, if you don't do it, have you still failed at it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
So if you go into, if you say that you don't want to take that job, let's say, because you might fail at that potential there, and that would just be so awful, because then you would have had it, and then you would have failed at it. Don't you not have it now? Haven't you failed at it right now by not doing it?
You failed by not even trying.
Yes. So you're actually afraid of what you're currently doing, but you just don't see it that way. And there's really 3 things that our brains are hardwired just on a very scientific nature level. Your brain is trying really, really hard to keep you alive. That's its job. That's its one job. And all of the signals and all of the neurons and all the things firing from your body are sending signals to your brain, giving it information, telling it what to do with what you're smelling, what you're seeing, what you're touching, sensing, sending all those sense triggers back to your brain. And your brain is like, okay, you know what? This is potentially risky. We might die. we're going to halt this and we're going to amp up the feelings from these senses. So then that's suddenly when you get all hot and sweaty, you get shaky, you get anxious, you get fearful because your brain is like, "Rrr, rrr, rrr, we might die, we might die." And so then that's when the anxiety hyperflow feelings come. And that's what your brain is doing because that's what it's supposed to do. So just because your body is reacting to a neuron's response, a chemical response that your brain is sending to you in your body systems with senses, doesn't necessarily make it true. It just means that it's doing what is hardwired to do, but it doesn't mean that you actually will die.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have a reason to fear that thing. It just means that your brain suspects that it's possible.
Yeah.
Another thing that your brain is hardwired to do is to make you feel cozy and comfortable. Again, not a bad thing. It just wants to feel cozy. And cozy is one of my personal life pillars. It's one of my word choices for my life. And let me show you right here. I have this magazine. It's called
The Cozy
Issue. Yes, my aunt gave it to me for Christmas because she knows me. Okay, but it's a very real thing that you have this overpowering sense when you're in a comfortable spot where your brain is like, "But do we really? I mean, we're good. It feels really cozy where we're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's cozy, right?"
Yeah.
And so your brain, again, is hardwired to keep you in that spot because it's just doing what it was designed to do. And thirdly, your brain wants to keep you safe, meaning well-fed, well-watered, all of the things in place so that your brain can stay alive, so your brain can function really well.
So true.
So if you're putting yourself in a situation where you're trying to run a marathon or you're, doing some kind of extreme activity where your brain was like, when are we getting hydrated again? when are we taking a nap and getting cozy again? I'm freaking out over here. So it's going to tell you to stop doing that thing because alive, cozy, food, safety. Okay. Those are the three things your brain needs. And so when you're in a situation where you can sort of look at your fear and tap it out and say, okay, my brain is probably just not wanting me to do this thing because it thinks I could possibly die or have that feeling of death. It's thinking that it's going to be really uncomfortable and it just wants to be cozy. Or it's thinking, I don't know when my next meal is coming and this might take more out of me than I can give. Then your brain is going to immediately fire all those trigger warnings to you that's going to come through in that sense of fear, anxiety, in retreat mode. Your whole body's going to shut down and go into retreat mode. And this is when we accept the fear. This is when we accept the fear as truth. This is when we accept that self-sabotage reality of this is just my life, this is just who I am, and this is just the way that it is. Because we have immediately listened to the truth of our brain, when in reality our brain isn't speaking truth to us, it's speaking facts to us based on senses that it has observed and not actually knowing the situation. You can think of your brain like this. It's like this person in a dark room that has no eyes, no ears, no fingers. It's just in a dark room and it's controlling the elevator. That's its only job, is to control the elevator. And it pushes a panic button, a react button, or a okay, all clear button. It's got 3 jobs, 3 buttons that it can press on any given moment of any given day. And it's trusting its little wiry electrical cords that are coming out of the elevator, going all around the spaces. What's out there? What can we tell? What can we tell the man in the dark room? And it's sending all of this input and data back. And this man is reading the data Okay, fear, anxiety, yeah, okay, all's calm. And then he presses that button. So it's not that your brain is literally factually saying this is what's going on outside. It's just responding to the information your body's senses are giving it, which means that you actually have the power to send your brain a new message.
Powerful stuff, which segues perfectly into what can we do to break the fear cycle? So now we just talked about all of that amazingness. Now we know that our brain isn't out to get us. It's actually out to preserve us. And it's just the man in the elevator controlling us. And we spend the majority of our life worrying about 60% of our time is spent worrying about things that never actually happen. And we've just learned that only 4 to 5% of what we fear actually comes into existence. So now you're like, okay, I get it. I want to stop that. I want to break that cycle. So how do we stop that? So there's a couple ways. The first thing is we need to accept fear as the price of progress. And the only way, you've heard it, it's kind of cliche, but the only way over it is through it. You know, you got to get through it. You got to live in that fear.
Hey, books.
Yeah, you've heard this say before. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Right? Do it afraid. But you have to accept fear as the price of progress, because there's going to be something that you come across as you grow as a person that you are going to be fearful of doing. There just is. So you have to accept that. You have to let your brain understand that that's how it is. And you have to accept that it's the price of progress. The other thing is you have to develop a burning desire within you, meaning that your desire to overcome and grow into your next level is greater than the fear that's holding you back. And then lastly, you have to focus on the things you can control. This is powerful because what we started talking about is how fear is an emotion. And when you feed the right emotion, you starve the wrong one. So if we're feeding fear, then we're starving healthy emotions, emotions that can actually help us overcome. So you want to feed the right emotion. You want to starve the wrong one. And here's something that I think a lot of people may not realize is that you can never eliminate fear. None of the things that we're talking about today are going to magically make fear go away for you. But you can choose to not allow fear to dominate you. The emotion you continually act upon will become the dominant emotion, and action feeds emotion. So think of it this way. Think about, whatever you're afraid of doing and it's keeping you from doing that thing, that inaction in a way becomes an action, and that action feeds the emotion of fear. So the only way that you can overcome that is to do something every day that you don't want to do. Do something every day that you don't want to do. And it could be as simple as doing the dishes, or it could be as powerful as jumping out of an airplane.
Fear is not the absence of courage. I really like that, because courage, or should I say bravery, the word bravery often has a misrepresentation when we think of it. We'll say things like Superman is so brave, or, so-and-so, that hero, that soldier, whatever, he's so brave. She's so brave, whatever. But sometimes what we have to realize is that doing the thing that you know how to do and that you're good at isn't necessarily bravery. It's just leaning into your purpose. It's just doing the thing that you're supposed to do. Superman is supposed to save people. It's how he was born. It's how he was wired. He's just doing his job. But if Superman were to eat vanilla ice cream, or kryptonite, I should say, vanilla ice cream. I don't know where that came from. If he was to eat kryptonite, I don't know. If he was to eat kryptonite, that would be bravery for Superman, because kryptonite would obviously kill him. So doing the thing that legitimately is hard for you, that's bravery, my friend. And that takes
Okay.
courage.
That takes courage. Yeah. Good point. Good point. I do love vanilla ice cream. All right. So now let's flip this and talk about how fear is connected to the second half of what we're going to talk about, which is self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm. Self-sabotage is a good one because I do that. And so I love talking about this one. I told you I was going to reveal my fear to you, my big all-encompassing life fear. And here it is. Are you ready for it? I can't drive on freeways or over bridges. And every week, I have an appointment that requires me to drive my trusty little Ford vehicle over a bridge. And some days I actually do it. Some days I drive over it. And when I'm up there, I turn my head both ways and I feel really confident. I'm looking down into the water over there and down over the city over there. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to be amazing at this. I can do this every week. I can do this next week. No problem. And then you have a defeating day where you just feel anxious about other things or tired, or maybe you didn't have enough protein or whatever. Like for me, that's what my thing is. And I take a roundabout. I take a shortcut around the bridge because my brain cannot even handle the emotion, the life-draining emotions of driving over the bridge that particular day. And so one week I have this super positive experience where, yeah, I can do it. And another week I basically give up on myself and I can't do it. But the thing that I like to focus on, because I do understand that this is my particular all-encompassing fear that I particularly have to battle, and it's happened to me since having children, is that what is the percentage of the more times that I succeed at it versus give up on it? And how hard am I on myself on the days when I self-sabotage and the self-sabotage isn't actually not walking into the fear that day. I'll tell you what the self-sabotage actually is. It's the way I think about my behavior. It's the way that I talk to myself afterwards. See, Molly, you were right. You can't do it. You're not going to be able to do it next week. You're never going to be able to do it because you're a loser. You have weird fears. And even normal 5-year-olds would love to have a car and drive over a bridge. And what's your problem? And like, all of this negative, I mean, that might be my
normal 5-year-old
talk where you basically tell your brain that it was right to hold you back. Yeah. It's validation to your brain that it was right.
You spend way more time and energy if you make the choice not to drive over the bridge, you spend way more time and energy beating yourself up about that than if you had just driven over the bridge and walked into that fear.
Let me tell you the number of times I've actually gone over the edge or crashed my car when I've taken my brain to the precipice of following through and doing the thing, shaking, quivering, feeling like I'm going to die and vomit. The number of times that I've actually died and vomited is 0. And yet, my self-sabotage still tells me the one time a month that I can't do it.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
so why. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in your brain a little bit. And, that is one example. Everybody has their own example of what self-sabotage is. But let's talk a little bit about what you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about what self-sabotaging traits are in a person's life. So in that story, Molly, what were you expecting?
I was expecting to die.
No, Molly, work with me. Work with me here. You were expecting failure. You were expecting failure, which is a characteristic of self-sabotage.
There's a law of human behavior, and the law says that the sooner or later we will get what we expect. And so if I am always expecting the worst, then eventually the worst is going to happen. If I'm refusing to take a risk, I am also self-sabotaging because, like we said earlier, if you're not doing the thing, then isn't the same thing as not doing the thing? Aren't you already in that situation? So, okay. You're also, number 3, you're being stopped by the failure because people who are
number two first.
Refusing to take risk. Yes. I didn't
put that up on the screen. Refusing to take a risk.
And number three, being stopped by failure. People who are stopped by a failure see it from a very personal perspective, and people who are not stopped by a failure see it from a process perspective. So do you say, oh my goodness, I'm a failure in life? Or do you say, this is just part of the process? Sometimes you're going to fail, sometimes you're going to succeed, but do I succeed more times than I fail? And am I still growing and learning? And what have I learned from this moment? What is the truth that I can actually repeat back to my brain from this experience? That's how you are not being stopped by failure. That's how you're seeing failure as failure is an inevitability. And when you're afraid of failing, you're holding yourself back from actually living and experiencing life, because failure is actually a requirement to becoming good at anything. If you don't fail at it first, then it could be argued that you were never really that good at it because you never dared to get good enough at it that you could fail at it first. And if you are too scared to do one thing once to fail at it, then you're obviously never going to become good at it. So when you're refusing to being stopped by failure and you reframe it, and instead the story that you tell your brain is, I haven't failed, I've just learned, I've just lived, I've just grown.
Yes.
So, you say that sentence to yourself instead.
Well, and we'll get to this in a second here, but because you're talking about it right now and you're jumping ahead a little bit, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Failure is the productive part of success.
Yeah.
Failure is the productive part of success. And Thomas Edison said, I've had a lot of success with failure. So it's all in how you frame it. It's all in how you look at it. You can look at failure as the roadblock, or you can look at it as, awesome, now I know what doesn't work, and now I can try something that does work. It's all in how you frame it. And so let's talk about how to stop the self-sabotage cycle and learn how to profit from failure. And we'll make this quick because we are running close, and we just can't keep you guys here too long because we know you got lives to live and things to do. So the first thing that you want to do is change your attitude. Change your attitude. It's pretty simple. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but you want to change your attitude, and your attitude is in your control. You are in charge of your attitude, and that is a whole other day that we can talk about.
Can I please just share this one? I love how I talk to you like you're my mom. Please, can I share this? I have something that I think some of you will find valuable when you're talking about changing your attitude or other people not being able to control or influence your attitude. And it was sort of this aha moment that I myself personally had very, very recently, because as an HSP, highly sensitive person on that spectrum of sensitivity, I feel all the things all the time, just vibrating through my body. And I'm just very in tune and intuitive person. And I get very raw emotionally, need lots of recovery time. And so it was really easy for me to say that other people's actions would affect me or influence me. And I didn't understand how to kind of process it or look at what they were saying or doing and how it was making me feel, because I kept shifting my focus on them. They're the responsible people. They're the ones who are making me feel this way. And then I realized, if somebody else could truly control the way that I feel, then I should be able to make whomever I madly love fall in love with me. But I can't, because the way I feel isn't going to make you love me. You might feel bad for me. You might have pity on me. You might have a certain opinion of me. But my love for you does not make you love me, because guess what? I can't change your attitude about me. That's all you. Your feelings about me are all you. And I might pine after you until the day I die. And it's not going to mean a hill of beans if you just don't feel it back. So when you find yourself in the place where you're saying, they're just, their attitude is just putting me in a bad mood, and I'm just, you know what? You're putting yourself in a bad mood.
You are. So good, Molly. So good. Okay. So moving on though, you got to change your vocabulary. You just got to change your vocabulary. People people need to reframe how they think of failure, and you need to turn a setback into a springboard for greater things. So change the word failure to, for example, a learning experience. Change it into a detour, an opportunity for growth, or tuition paid in the school of learning. If you look at top leaders, influential leaders, they rarely ever use the word failure to define their experiences that brought them to where they are. They define it as opportunities that they grew through, detours, learning experiences, all these other things. So very simply, you need to change your vocabulary. Then you need to let failure redirect you. So allow it to redirect you. Failure is the productive part of success. So now you
I have
know
a really cool story that you guys might relate to about failure redirecting you.
You have a lot of cool stories.
Yeah, I bring the value. There was this girl, true story, who always felt called to be an author. And she had all of these ideas in her head. And she wanted to write. I'm not talking about myself, by the way. And she wanted to write and be a published author. And she moved to New York right out of college. And she had a book published pretty quickly. It didn't reach massive acclaim, but she was like, okay, yeah, I've arrived. I got a book published. I'm good. And then after that, nothing that she wrote was ever accepted, ever published, ever reviewed. And years and years and years passed, and she felt like I'm just a failure. I'm not a writer. Like it's over. It's just over for me. And she let her mind dwell in the circumstance of failure for so many years that 10 years had passed. But one day she realized that her little blog site where she would just upload random blogs and podcasts about her life as a stay-at-home mom had reached 1 million views. And suddenly it occurred to her, maybe I am an author. Maybe I do have massive success. Maybe I was just speaking to the wrong audience this whole time. And I was looking at my failure as a novelist in the literary world as a definition of who I was and couldn't be anymore, when instead I have this success over here as an author, and I just need to find my voice to that group of people. And so now she is a writer again. She's a writer by writing her own podcast episodes and then writing things on her blog. And so she eventually, it took 10 years, but she eventually let that initial failure of being a literary novelist redirect her into a new direction where she could be an author just in an entirely different capacity than she'd ever imagined.
Cool. Awesome. Let it redirect you. Simple. Let the failure of being a novelist redirect you into another avenue. Perfect example. The other thing is you got to keep a sense of humor. You got to laugh about what you failed at. Honestly, this is just, I think, a survival mechanism that if you can't laugh about your failure, if you can't laugh about what you haven't done good at, I will just say that, being married, for example, Ryan and I will share this because we were very open about sharing this with everybody. We took early on in our relationship, we took this personality test. It's the DISC assessment. And the DISC assessment is really meant for the workplace to figure out, what people work well together and who should work well together. And we took this test very early on in our relationship, and we discovered that our two personalities were the two people that should never work together. Should never, ever work together. Should never, ever, ever, ever. Like, these two people should never work together. They should be on separate projects. Like, oh, this explains everything. But here's the thing. You learn from that, all the things we already talked about, and you grow through it, and you accept what you failed at as a couple and communication and all of that. You keep a sense of humor about it. And guess what? You grow through it and you become stronger, and you say, I'm not going to let that define us. I'm not going to let that define my direction. And we're going to fail through our relationship and keep a sense of humor through it and grow through it and come out on the other side, which I can say that we are doing. Yes, exactly. Forward. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. Yes. And then we got to make failure a learning experience. You have to learn from it. You have to allow yourself to learn from it. And then finally, like we already said, Thomas Edison says, I've had a lot of success with failure, which again is a positive outlook on failure, which is keeping a sense of humor about
He
it.
was the one who said about inventing the light bulb. How many times? I don't remember what the numeric was, but let's say it was 100. No, I haven't failed at creating the light bulb 100 times. I've just discovered 100 ways not to do it.
Yeah.
That's a classic example of someone who views failure as a stepping stone into.
I don't think it was 100 though. Wasn't it like 1,000?
I mean, it was ridiculous. I don't remember the numeric, so
right.
Exaggerate.
Pish posh, yes. Anyways, Jamie, we would love to keep going all day, and we have so much more that we could even talk about. A million other stories we could share. I have to go because I actually have something I have to do at 2:00, so I can't.
Yeah, don't we all, girlfriend? Yes. So we have, as usual, bantered away an hour, and if you're still here, give yourself a gold star. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining us for Sister Straight Talk. Hashtag replay if you joined us later. Question of the day: are you a live kind of gal or gent, or do you prefer podcasts? What's your jam? We want to hear from you. We want to know. And second of all, hashtag fear. What is your fear? Because I just told you all that I am a 38-year-old woman afraid to drive on the freeway over bridges. So I really want you to hashtag resonate with me and tell me your fear so I don't feel like a toddler up here. But but seriously, when you give fear to your fear, meaning that you're afraid to talk about it,
when you feed your fear,
then it empowers you. So let's help each other together be a little bit better and start naming our fears, identifying them, and seeing what we can do with them moving forward. We love you guys. We appreciate you. You're rock stars. You're all rock stars. We really like it when rock stars join our lives. So we'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Sounds like a plan.
Bye,
guys.